signature talk, ladies and gentlemen. It's on the AI first GCCs, embedding intelligence into the enterprise. We have with us the President for India and Global Operations from Quess Corp. Ladies and gentlemen, could we have a huge round of applause as I invite on stage Mr. Lohit Bhatia.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I hope I'm audible right there at the back. Can't see you because of these lights, but yes, thank you. So first and foremost, ET, thank you very much for putting this together. 9th edition. You are still not a double-digit 10-year baby, but at least we have this kind of an energy in the room itself. And to each one of you, if you're participating as one who runs a GCC, part of a GCC ecosystem, a consultant to a GCC, or anyone else as a stakeholder in this ecosystem, please give yourself a round of applause, because out of the many things in media today, the one positive narrative that you can pick up any newspaper, any news channel, any bite at any given point of time in social media is the positivity of GCCs in India. So I think that one thing across political lines, across Indian citizens, wherever we hail from, is always there. Is there a clicker that I have? Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'm Lohit, representing Quess today. And I've just put together some 6, 7, 8 slides for all of us to dwell into this topic. There are a lot of speakers during the course of the day, many of whom will get into specific topics, but we'll just try and get into the mood as to why we are here, why we should all be proud of what's been created, and why are we so confident that the journey has just started. That's the important part. You know, in any stock, in any company, your past only defines what your history has been. But what people invest is in your future. In any country, that's also true. In any ecosystem, if you're part of, including all of us part of the GCC ecosystem, what people look at is historically what you've achieved, but more importantly, what you have as potential. So on this slide, I hope it's visible in the room. Yep, okay. See, if we really look at it, we say that there are about 53% of the global GCCs are already in India. That's because the number that we are taking globally for the GCCs is roughly about 3,000 odd. 1,800 of them are already in India. We feel that that's about 53%. We feel that there is about $60 billion of enterprise work which is already being done from here. We also notice, if you see on the left-hand side of the quadrant, there are clear 6 dimensions on which this is. There's the Bengaluru, there's obviously Hyderabad, where all of us are today. There's the NCR, Pune, Chennai, and that's where majority of this work is happening. It is expected that this will cross the 2,200 mark, but let me bust the first myth today. I think this is an underreported number. And in the subsequent slides, you'll see why this number of 2,100 and 2,200 is extremely shy of what it eventually can be. And the reason for that is, we are estimating that the market will be about $105 billion of exports or merchandise value today, currently at $60 billion. Does anybody know how much is India's total exports, merchandise and non-merchandise, which is services? $750 billion. Of that, about 250, 300 comes from the IT sector, about 450 and math comes from the merchandise sector, which is very similar to what Vietnam also does on merchandising. Vietnam is 1/10 our population. We are 10 times the population doing the same. But what we are racing forward with the world is the services side. But here, interestingly, when $60 billion from GCCs goes to 100, it becomes a pillar by the time India goes to $1 trillion of export. And there is only one place that we have our eyes set on, which is China. You know how much China does? At this moment, China does about $4 trillion of merchandise and services. So even when India goes to 1 trillion and our GCCs go to 100 billion, we are actually just 1/4 of China then. But why I also wanted to raise this point is, of the 60 billion, which most people will not tell you, $27 billion goes to the 1.9 million people who all of you employ. In your respective GCCs, you have about 1.9 million people, and you pay them $27 billion in a year for their personal consumption, and that's their wages and employment. Why is this number important? 2047, what do we aspire to become? Viksit Bharat. What is Viksit Bharat? Developed nation. Where are we today? Developing nation. What's the index of per capita GDP for a developing nation? $2,700. So each Indian, total GDP divided by total number of Indians, 2,700 US dollars. However, the people who are associated with GCCs are already at 14,000 US dollars. So where India will be in 2047 as Viksit Bharat, GCCs and people associated with GCCs are almost nearly there. So that's the impact to society, that's the impact to consumption, that's the impact all of you create. The point why I'm confident that this 2200 number is underreported, and it will be a lot higher than that 2030, it will be a lot higher in terms of $100 billion, is look at the pie chart. Where do we get our GCCs from? 60% is from US. What is US's GDP? US's GDP is about, give or take, $30 trillion. It is only 26% of the world. So, a country which is contributing 1/4 of the global economic power is actually powering 60% of our GCCs. Flip the argument. That means we have another 75% of the world out there, which all of us still need to go out to, sell the India story, get more business there. And in this pie chart, if the US 60% comes down to 30 because others will take more shape, that will tell you that 2200 GCCs are too less by 2030, and $105 billion by 2030 is too less. So when you go back from here, let's start telling ourselves that's the bear case model. We have to do a lot better than that. On the chart, you'd also see what are the areas where you see majority of this work happening. There is the IT products and services, manufacturing, BFSI, healthcare, telecom, aerospace, and aviation. Yesterday, I was at a client's facility, a deep space tech company which has just started here on the outskirts, Shamshabad area, the GMR campus. They have a facility there, and pleasantly surprised and amazed to know that we have 100 startups in the country today who are working in the aerospace area itself. On their facility, I could see on the shop floor the cutting edge work they're doing in metallurgy, the cutting edge work they're doing in building the rocket together. And obviously, they still fly out of the ISRO premises, but they are building equally and independently. Now imagine India does the deal with some of the countries for buying the jets and buying the engines. Doesn't matter which country we do it with. That is for the government to decide, not for me at least. But what happens is with technology transfer that happens, and couple it with these 100 startups which are already there in space tech, imagine what you can do to propulsion systems, what you can do to engine, what you can do to avionics, what you can do to making a rocket, what you could do into space launches, and then imagine where India could be a couple of years from today. And no prizes for guessing. The highest, dollar-denominated returns for companies in the US is what in the last 30 years? Defense. So are GCCs new? No. They've been around for about 30 years. At least, give or take. 30 years ago, what did we know them as? We knew them as coding centers. We knew them as data punching centers. We knew them as, digital data into the mainframes or into the computers. The very first time the undersea cables started coming, the satellites started creating navigation systems, interconnectivity with the rest of the world happened. This was late 90s. Many of you would remember, you were part of that. Some of you who are younger than 30 years in experience or 25 years in experience may not remember it, but we used to typically do cost arbitrage. Back then, an India to US cost arbitrage, ladies and gentlemen, was 13 times, 13 times. And typically, the reason for people to come to India used to be that huge cost arbitrage. Go to India, get thousands of people, do a cost arbitrage. A few years later came the Y2K moment, and obviously India really did extremely well for the world. The Y2K moment did not really happen. Another way of saying is that the IT industry says they prevented it, never happened. but whichever way you look at it, it did not happen. But a lot of Indians and a lot of Indian companies actually started producing results which would have an outcome and a bearing. And then we came into the captives, the BPOs. In the 2005, 2012 arena is where the GICs started coming into play. So what really started happening is processes started coming in, and we were supposed to deliver on those processes. And then since the 2013 and the 2023 and thereafter, you would notice something significant has moved, which is the center of experience or the center of excellence has started to happen. So there would be global transactions which would be done. For the first 20 years, we were just told, this is a transaction, just copy it, do it a million times over, send it back to us. Don't use your mind, don't use your brains. We don't want to hear from you what you have to say about it. Last couple of years, that transaction has shifted to transformation, thanks to each one of you in the room and all your teams and the work that you do. Now the global world doesn't come back and say, hey, I do this in 10 steps, and please just do it in 10 steps a million times over. Now the world comes back and says, hey, I do this in 10 steps. Can you do it in 5 steps? Can you run concurrent the balance 5 steps? Can you do a bot or an agent which can run the balance 5 steps? Can you bring down my cost? Can you improve my efficiency? That's transformation. But ladies and gentlemen, the next impact is going to be when we move from transformation to IP and product development. Small steps have started happening, but it is happening. It requires other things, and in the subsequent slides, you'll see some of them. It requires a lot of strong IP, proprietary know-how, knowledge, and legal protocols in India to retain the IPs back in the country. It will require arbitration in our country. It will require the Big Four to become even bigger, and many others. And I use Big Four as an acronym for the consulting ecosystem, the taxation ecosystem, and the others. It requires all of that to grow, because product know-how and IPR cannot be given in a country unless you're sure that it will stand the test of time for a century later, and it will not get fought competitively and destroyed. But that is strategically what's happening. So back then, the cost center, the support organization, typically a fixed project kind of an arbitrage. Where are we today? Strategic innovation, a lot of business enablement, R&D, and an agile thing. But as an organization, what have we been noticing? Last 3 years, we've noticed that the typical transaction kind of requirements have started shrinking in the percentage capacity of need for talent. And what we see is about 45% increase in demand in the AI talent. We see about 178% increase in generative AI. We see 68% enhancement in data scientist requirements in India. We see ML engineers between 30-35%. We see cybersecurity and requirements going up by about 29%. How many of you have last ever visited a physical bank branch, where we possibly, when we used to deal with the teller across the counter, we did not need layers of cybersecurity while doing that transaction? But today, because you're doing it on your mobile phone, and mind you, on the same mobile phone, you'll have a Digi Yatra. Mind you, on the same mobile phone, you'll have an app which will also be the custodian of all your Aadhaar and other data. And mind you, on the same app, you'll have concurrently multiple financial product and applications. And they are all speaking to each other. And at the same time, a bot, which you are not aware of, which you were reading a news article, and probably comes and places itself, and now it knows where you're spending, what you're buying, how you're buying, or where you're buying. So just to give you a glimpse, that's why cybersecurity has gone through the roof, and we see that kind of demand. And then obviously the cloud engineering bit as well. So why is this play for India? Some people say it's the talent. Some people say it's the demographic dividend. Some say it's infrastructure that we have. Some say that we are a democracy. Some say we are a civilization for 5,000 years. And some say because at the end of the day, we are an enabler for the rest of the world. But if you see on the left-hand side, all of these are the right answers. Each one of them is contributing in an impact which has some percentage degree of why it's happening. Are international airports and connectivity in ports important? Absolutely. Is a startup funding ecosystem important? Yes, very much. There is red carpet service when you look at the labor laws. There could be 44,000 rules, otherwise 800 registers to file. But when it comes to startup ecosystem, there's an expeditious way of they can work. The skill development, the AI mission, the tax reforms for both the youth and what we just recently saw 2 or 3 days ago, the IoTs, the 5Gs, and India is already one of the fastest rolled out in the world, by the way, in 5G, and each one of you obviously knew this data already. And the semicon mission. See, some people frustratingly ask this question that what has happened of India's Make in India. Let me tell you, services moves with forward integration, but products move with backward integration. Backward integration, when you have to do products, is far, far tougher. The gestational period is far higher than services going in the forward integration. So yes, for the first 5 years, 10 years, when you look at manufacturing ecosystem, some of you might feel frustrated and say, oh, we are just an assembling shop. But as time progresses, you don't remain just an assembling shop. You start making the semicon for that mobile phone. You start making the touch screen for that mobile phone. You don't just make the touch screen, you go into the silicon, which is required to make the glass. You go further into the chemistry of how that has to be done, and the R&D on how that has to be done. And that all comes into the ecosystem as well. The GCC's policy, and I have a quick slide on that, the gig workforce and the digitization drive. So what will this give all of us? This will give us talent, this will give us cost, this will give us arbitrage, this will give us enterprise and infrastructure. And if you just have to see from a Hyderabad point of view, we've just put some of the things there. We are happy to share these slides and put it on the public domain for all of you to download later and use them wherever you want to. So what is the government doing? And government's always an enabler. Without the government, with the government, or despite the government, whichever way you see that India functions. Some people say we function despite the government, some say we function with the government, some say we function along with the enablement of the government. I think the government is a big enabler. And without the government's enablement, it doesn't happen. The good part about India is that the states are creating, each one of them is creating that red carpet service. And we've just picked up few states where there is a massive impact. There's the Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh. I'll not take you through some of the things. There are payroll tax benefits. There are real estate benefits. There is infrastructure benefits. There are subsidies for people that you hire. And all of this, when you weave together, it just creates a greater degree of enablement and attracting people into India and as far as GCC is concerned. So where are we on the AI for GCCs? I spoke about the fact that 30 years ago, we started with a data transaction shop. We came into the transformation era. Today, in the transformation era, we've reached the stage where an AI bot tells you, if you leave your office at 6 o'clock today, you'll hit 35 minutes of traffic. You can stop at a neighborhood shop, buy flowers for your wife, probably buy that paneer or tofu or whatever you want to eat. It will also tell you what you should cook when you go home, and which will make her happy. And you can do all of this by reaching home at 7 o'clock, have the dinner on the dinner table at 7:30, and voila, your wife's happy. We've reached that stage. That's your agent. That's your coach. It still doesn't promise that your wife's going to be happy. Okay? We're some time away from that. And the time, I hope in my lifetime never comes, is when my wife says, I don't want him back home. I'm happy with my AI buddy. So that part I wouldn't want to see. But in our evolution of the AI journey, where are we? So for banking, and I just spoke about this, a customer tells us that there are less number of people who walks into a branch of the third largest bank in the country with 5,000 plus branches. 5,000 plus branches, less number of customers walk in a year. More cyber attacks happen every year. Just put that in your conceptualization, that what are we really talking about in terms of this world. I was with a healthcare company. There is a lovely Jerome Valley here. All of you from Hyderabad obviously know this better than me. And there are some excellent customers which we were visiting. They are at the cutting edge of science and vaccination. And they're telling me that the next stage of vaccination and pharmaceutical is not generic for each one of us. It is at the DNA level, it is at the cellular level, it is at the culture level. So it will be tailor-made for each one of us to say what we necessarily need. And likewise, you can see in every one of these segments. But I'll come to the bottom right because my time's already up. I'll come to the bottom right away. And like I said, all slides will be available if you need them. India's AI workforce is shy of 500,000. My own company has 500,000 workers right now. Okay? But India's total AI workforce is shy of 500,000. You know how many are there in US already? About 1 million. But more importantly, US has created in their education system a system to churn out 45,000 students learning AI every year. Flip the argument and go next door to us, which is China. China already claims that they have over 1 million people working in AI, and they have set up an enterprise with the government, the education and everything, where 500,000 workers more will be purposed. A single university has been given a target of producing 50,000 of those. So what we must ask ourselves is, as GCCs, if we are having 2 million of those 6.5 million in IT, in 3 years are all the 2 million learning some traits of AI? And that's something important for each one of us to answer. I'll quickly, in measure of time, move. And last but not the least, I have a bunch of individuals here, couples there, my colleague, I can see him. Sandeep's there, Adiba is there, Sanjay is there, Priyanka is there, Kishan is there. We represent Quess Corp. You can talk to us during the course of the day. We're going to be everywhere in this room. You're going to be able to talk to us about how to set up a GCC, what differentiation can we bring to the table along with anybody else? Can we become an enabler to you if you already have one? How can we help you expand your existing GCC? How can we become an enabler to all the other enablers in the ecosystem and the partnership? Because here is a once-in-a-lifetime movement. All of us have this transition from a developing to a developed economy. And if together as GCCs, we can help make that happen, then why not? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhatia.